Peace, y'all. We hardly got our hands dirty working on the CIK project here, and we've already run into diabolical problems. Yeah, that's right, Bob. It's the law of averages, right? What's that saying? Whatever can go wrong will go wrong, kind of thing. We started with getting the Nerf bars off and measuring from the brake mount to the rotor. Because there's shims on here, I wanted to make sure that we were going to, when we put the new setup on, the new hub on with our rotor, that the rotor would sit the same distance away so the brake caliper would still drop right back on. I know it's not that big a deal. It could always be shimmed afterwards if it was just a little of this and a little of that. I mean, that's not a great distance right there, that little bit there. But I just, just to get an idea, because we're setting the four corners, wanted to be able to do that. Now, why do I have these brakes sitting here? Yeah, we've got a big problem. The one-off Ren Speed parts for this CRG knockoff are not at all similar to the, let me get the rotor and show you. Not at all similar. First things first, from the bearing surface to the rotor mounting surface, this one's deeper than this one. Well, you can already see what's going on here, right? The bolt circle is different. This rotor won't even go on here. These are those bastard 6 1/4 inch little mini rotors. You can buy these things, and Paul Martin actually has a hub that'll accept these things. That's a whole nother story. So I should have known. I should have known this working on the Paul Martin hub with a steel rotor that I had Paul Martin make for like this, but a 4-bolt pattern instead of the 3-bolt pattern for the Anderson project that we built. All that stuff. Yeah, I went up there and dug through the parts, and then it hit me. So the dilemma is we need to get a rotor that fits this, that's 6 1/4 or 160 millimeter outside diameter. You know what the chances of that happening are? 0. Anything that'll fit this is going to be a larger diameter. That's why this is that old bastard piece, right? The bolt pattern here is different. Then the outside diameter is smaller. So what are you saying, Robert? Well, if I got a rotor that fits on this Wild Kart standard modern day setup, what's going to happen is, if I stay with the standard, the Ren, I'd have to cut these brake mounts off and more than likely adjust. For the larger diameter rotor, we'd have to mount the calipers differently. Or I could put this whole front end setup on spindles and everything. What I don't like about this is how thin these little steel rotors are. This seems to me, I'm not a CIK expert, aficionado. I know nothing really about these carts. But what this tells me is this is probably for a tag cart. This probably wasn't designed for a shifter cart. If it was, sprint racing, I guess, you're not gonna travel the same speeds you are road racing. So I'll have to call Joe and ask him what cart this came off of. Did the guy road race it? I'm sure he's going to tell me yes, and that I got nothing to worry about. But this rotor is pretty worn. Just feeling it with your fingers. You see that shiny line right there, right down at the end. The dark bit, that's stock standard, never been touched by a pad. And you can just feel it with your fingers. That the contact patch of the rotor, it isn't even flat. You can feel it's rounded. It's fatter in the middle than it is at the outer edges. It's worn quite a bit. And we're putting all kinds of new stuff into this. A lot of money into this. What are our options? Our options are to go, replace this stuff I mean, if I'm gonna do it right, man, I'm gonna have to replace these rotors too. You know, then brake pads, because it looks like the brake pads are about shot. I just did all that with the Renspeed brakes. Rebuilt the brakes, cleaned them all up. New seals, new brake pads, new everything, and I put the American fittings in for the Paul Martin braided brake line, the English brake lines. I was going to put Paul Martin master cylinders on it as well. But why don't you just drop this on and run it the way it is? Well, because one, it's worn. I don't want to just put somebody else's used junk on here, right? And here's the rear caliper. The bolt pattern to that bracket, because this one bolted right to the chassis. It didn't have a bracket. That bolt pattern is, I think it is the same. Get in there. Here, let's go the other way if we can. Oh, now you caught me, folks. You just saw that thing go in there. Here it goes. You gotta come this way. And I'm not gonna be able to get it on the rotor. But look, we would need a much bigger, for those bolts to go through those holes and mount on there, we'd need a much bigger diameter rotor. We're not even close to it, right? So none of this is really plug and play. The front maybe bolts right up. The master cylinders probably will bolt right up. But I'd want to replace these rotors and brake pads. Could I run the blue Renspeed stuff in the back and this stuff on the front and just get away? I don't know, man. At this point, I'm thinking about just leaving these hubs on, running the brakes that I've already rebuilt, and I guess so much for updating the cart and getting it at the new modern width. This cart is far narrower overall width-wise than the new carts. What did I say? It was 43 inches across the front. It's 5 inches narrower, folks. 5 inches, 2.5 inches on each side in the front, narrower than the cart that I just drove in those videos, the CRG I drove. I like driving Joe's cart. That was good fun. What if I get in this? I spend all this time and money getting this thing, and I don't like it because I have nothing to compare it to, but the more modern stuff that I have already taken for a ride twice. I'm not at all comfortable with this whole thing. It was an impulse buy. You know, I bought the cart from Larry. Larry was trying to pay his taxes. All the guys at the track knew it. So, I mean, if we had enough money, we'd have thrown all of our money into a pot and bought his RV from him too. So we could all still crash out in it at the racetrack. But I threw him $500 for this go-kart, and I'm starting to think I'd have been better off if I was going to go this way. Sell off some of my other junk and throw $2,000 at somebody and buy a more modern go-kart, and then do what I'm doing now, just cleaning it up and updating it. At this point, man, I'm torn. I'm literally torn between moving forward or moving on altogether. It's going to be a lot of work doing what we wanted to do, to have something that's not up to snuff. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go in. I took all the measurements and stuff. I'm gonna go in and get on the internet and check Mondokart and see what's up and what's going on. See what the measure this stuff up here and see what the replacement cost would be for this stuff, and go from there. Man, I'm really bummed out. What do you do? What do you do? Right? Phone's ringing. It's the hotline, JJ. Love y'all. Hang in there. It'll get better. It'll get better.